Hello boys and girls, Bubble Bobble! Classic game. Like a piece of furniture in every arcade when I was growing up. I'm sure that is not correct because I've said that once before about games. Like, my memory is that. But Bubble Bobble was a little bit of an older game when I was in the arcades. I remember it always being there, a little bit like Wonder Boy. Now it's the beginning of a fantastic story. Let's make a journey to the Cave of Monsters. It's like fairy tale stuff, and that was the stuff that made an impression on me this time. Remember the gameplay, remember the characters really well, but I'd forgotten all about the backstory. The fact that there used to be boys, what is they, Blubber, and the boys actually have names, but I can't remember what the names are. Been turned into dinosaurs by Baron von Blubber, called the Skell Monster, I think, in Japan. I was going to do a look at something that I didn't put in the retrospective, which was the names of all these creatures. So those guys, what are they called? Zen-chan in Japan, Bubble Buster in the West. The first few levels fairly straightforward, and I got through them okay, and then things started to get difficult. The main thing that I didn't realise when I was playing, and later came to light, so I may well return to this game after I've finished up these videos, to try and get to level 100, which I wasn't able to do. So if you're watching this wanting a full playthrough, I don't think these playthroughs are that for people. There's something a little bit different, like a discussion as you watch the game. There are much better options than watching me play these games, so just search online for a full playthrough. But like I say, so I won't get to the end. I got to level 71, and then specifically the jump and bubble move. So you jump straight up vertically and blow a bubble which appears underneath you, and then you bounce up. You've got to be able to do that and repeat it. And it could be the controller I'm using, but it might also be the fact that I was not losing lives, because this gameplay is pieced together from my various attempts. So when you see that thing popping up in the bottom, it's me saving the game and just editing it together. So I edit together the successful attempts at the stage. Believe me, you don't want to watch me the many times it takes on some of these levels for me to get through. So that is what is going on with the saving. So it can be a marginally interesting video and not get totally frustrating for you. But also the fact that I was doing that meant that I was not losing lives. I do specifically on a couple of occasions deliberately lose a life. I can't remember why now. There was a reason for me to do it. I can't remember what it would have been, but I did it at some point. But I should have been doing that more, because the difficulty scales. If you're not losing lives, the enemies become really, really difficult. And I was starting to feel like, this is insane. If this is level 71, how are the other levels even possible, with everything moving as fast as it is and the enemies staying in the bubbles for such a short amount of time? And I think it's because I had like 6 lives. They were going so fast. So we'll see. I'll go back to it and see if I can get to level 100. As I've said before, my focus is like doing the retrospective, talking about the game, not necessarily winning the game. And I missed the name. What? Alright, so we got Bubble Buster. What's his name? Bubble Buster, and who else on this? Monster in Japan, and Beluga in the West is the name of the purple-headed, the purple sperms. Really tricky level this. The way you die the most is if you fall down the bottom, and then you've got that area where you're just falling through the middle, and they generally kill you there. So I learned an awful lot about the creator, which is one of the great things about doing these, looking at these games. You learn all this stuff that you're completely unaware of back in the day. I got a real sense of the man. He was an interesting dude with some interesting ideas about games and what makes a fun game, and with that quirky Japanese sense of there's always seems to be a deep philosophy in Japan behind what on the surface can seem quite whimsical and arbitrary ideas, such as blowing bubbles and popping them. But he had a very specific reason for choosing that, you know, and an explanation for why, an expression of something that is exciting and exhilarating, but not necessarily sport or shooting a gun. The idea that you could make that leap, well, popping bubbles is exciting and exhilarating. It's a strange way of putting it, perhaps to the Western way of conceptualizing ideas, but it makes total sense, and it leads to kind of freedom and creativity that is sometimes can be a little bit. We're very quick in the West. That's a silly, frivolous idea. No, there's a strong intention behind it and a strong creative justification for it, and this is it. And he was that kind of guy, and was thinking about other concepts like cooperative reasons to play co-op games, making the games more accessible for particularly women who were not as prevalent in the arcades as young boys at the time, and what could be appealing to them, couples playing games. So he's obviously a guy who's concerned with just people in general and different types of people and catering to different people and being bringing new types of people in, which is really nice to hear. That was the intention behind the game, and it definitely has that. It's an approachable game. It's a game that just makes you happy because of its world and its graphics. This is the way I chose to do this. I think there is a way to kind of jump into the middle of the heart and time it so that if you've got the rapid fire bubbles, you could probably trap them as they come in, because if you time it well enough, you can hit the enemy pretty much as you land on them or as they come down onto the top of your head. But I was never able to get that really down. Like I say, it might be the control method, it might be the difficulty, or it might be just my lack of ability, which is always a distinct possibility. Go and get that Terminip. Only 60 for that. This idea in quite a number of games, isn't it, that the levels always draw a picture in the background. What game was it? I think it was where they did more jokes in the background. There are jokes in the background, like one level spells out the word SOS, I think, or run away, or stuff like that. Yeah, you all probably already know if you know a bit about this game or you've watched my retrospective, but Fukio Mitsuji died very young, 48 something. Didn't even see, you know, not anything. What was it that he died from? Trying to find where I read it online. Bear with me. Maybe I lost it. Well, I'll have to. I'll hunt that out. Let me find it now, because it's important. This kind of thing. It's trivia, but it's somebody's life, isn't it? Just gone to the wiki. You'd think that would. It's got the fact that he's deceased there, but it doesn't tell you how he died. Fell into a coma induced by kidney failure. 11th December 2008. What a shame. And that's something that I was expressing the other day. As I said, this is a ubiquitous game that seemed to be in my memory, was in every arcade that I frequented. And so it's almost like, I don't know, mountains or trees or grass. When something has been around as long as you can remember, you treat it almost as an impermeable thing that is just has been there forever and will be there forever. And then you start researching and thinking about these things and learning about them, and it brings home to you the fact that it was a thing created by a person, and there was a time when it wasn't there, and a work of creative art is different, but you kind of take it for granted when you come across it. It's like someone who's, I mean, this is probably me, but also people who are younger than me. Like, there's always been Star Wars. Star Wars is like oxygen. In a way, it's just always been there. But I think ultimately it's better. It's better to know about this stuff. You could argue that it somehow demystifies things to know too much about a topic. You want those nostalgic memories, and a little bit of mystery about certain things is sometimes good, but when it's a passion, well, you could just leave it there, couldn't you? Yeah, there was this game called Bubble Bobble. Remember berries? You remember that? Yeah, I remember it. Do you remember it? Yes. Well, that's the end of the conversation. What can you actually do with that? Well, learn about it. Don't just remember it. I think that's better. Took me a while to figure out these lightning bolts flying sideways. You do actually need them on certain levels. This is not one of them, but not necessarily one of them, because they come out of those alcoves, don't they? How am I going to do this? I can't even remember if I manage it. There you go. Just keep popping those bubbles because they got stuck at the bottom. I think it was about, I think it took me to about level 40 to really figure out how to jump on bubbles. Not the standing jump thing, which I never could reliably do, but just the ability to jump and bounce off the bubbles. I was thinking you had to push up or you had to time it, you know. But all you have to do is just hold down the jump button once you're above it. I'm trying to do it all the time, trying to practice. Yeah, just hold on to it. I think that might be me learning it there. If that is, that's good timing that I mentioned it on the very level. I didn't plan that. What's the ghost dude called? The guy in the white sheet. That is Mitre, called Stoner in the West. Where's my list of names? There we go. Yeah, Mitre, Stoner. It's, you know, you have to check a number of sources. I try and do that because spellings are different across different write-ups and different informational things. That's the thing with the internet. You think if it's on Wikipedia it must be true, but not always. So I'm always kind of mindful of that. Don't want to take the first thing as read. Again, on Wikipedia it says Ukyo Mitsuji created the game with colourful graphics to appeal to female gamers. I was like, yeah, but where's the citation? I didn't think there was a citation, and then I found a video where he actually says it, so it's correct. Games for me are one of those things that I've always admired and been very interested in, but never wanted to do. I don't know if you have anything like that, but when I watch movies and stuff, We think, you know, I could make a movie. And I would love to do so. But games, I've never wanted to make a game. I just enjoy playing them, and I'm really interested in the people who make them. But that desire to actually do it has never been there for me. So it's almost like it's a topic that you can just indulge in as a spectator in a way. Because I've never been into like football and stuff, sports necessarily. It's like my version of sports, learning about the people who, well, not the people who play the games necessarily. I don't watch a lot of esports, but the people who make them and are concerned with the design of them. I've always really found that interesting. Particularly in the early days like this, when it's one guy with a vision, which happens less and less these days because games need such a huge budget and such high fidelity graphics to be taken seriously by people. The days when one person could create a game is kind of, until recently had kind of gone away, but then the rise of indie development through things like Steam and platforms like that. There we go. I left a little death in there. I don't think I died on purpose there. Really matter. So when the clock is there, you obviously want to go for that, don't you? I don't think you'd be able to reach him there. Yeah, I can hear the music. Obviously, well, not obviously, but when I'm watching it back like this, I'm not listening to the music, but the music is playing in my head as I talk over the gameplay, because it is that sort of that puzzle game thing. The game that really did it for me, where you're still playing the game in your sleep as you're trying to fall to sleep, and it can become quite tormenting if you play too much of these puzzle games. Tetris, obviously, but there was another one called that was bubble related, and you fired the bubbles from the center of the screen. You had like an arrow, and you had your bubble loaded onto it, which was a certain color, and you would fire it up at the bubbles that were coming down at you. Can't remember the name of it. I don't think it was an arcade game, but that one just couldn't get to sleep afterwards with playing these imaginary levels of it. Puzzle games kind of fell out of favor with me over time, and it's not a genre that I go to very often these days. I don't know why, because I loved playing this, and I haven't really enjoyed this as much as any of the beat 'em ups that I've played, or the dungeon crawlers. So I don't know why I don't go to puzzle games now. Some more recent games like The Witness and stuff like that, because that really has a story and is very intriguing. I mean, maybe that is part of the good thing about doing this kind of exercise, is it can lead to rekindling an interest. Already I'm playing these old games is reminding me about what got me into games in the first place, and I kind of forgotten that in recent years. I went through this gaming, which I'm still in the midst of, really. The kind of disillusionment with modern games, just going from the next one thing to the next and nothing really blowing you away. You kind of forget over time, why am I even doing this? I don't know if I'm having fun anymore playing these games. I just seem to be looking for an experience that none of these games are really giving me. So already I started to feel like playing these older games has reminded me why I play games in the first place. I think over time games had become rather than just a fun pastime, I was Games are so complex with so many complex systems. I think I started to expect too much from them, and playing these retro games has kind of reminded me the essence of what a game is, in a weird way. So tough to time it. You're looking to pop the what I was looking to do was pop the fireball, well, the trails of fire, the thing that puts the trails of fire on the floor there, but they're not really, they don't go fast enough. So what are those springy things called? Springy things, bane bow or coily in the West. Bonnie bow in the EU. Oh, they're right, the EU here as well. Trivia. Ah, there's the secret level. I was sure I'd got to a secret level at some point in this playthrough. There we go, through the door in the middle, down to the bottom. So you can die on these secret levels apparently. If the time runs out, I think an undefeatable enemy appears. I assume it's Skull Monster. This is a fun level, but I mean, I was all the way through. I was looking for. Obviously, that didn't happen the first time, and won't happen the first time for the majority of the time. I just picked, you know, in the edit, the one that worked. But there seem to be certain levels. There's no way to do some levels 100%. It seems to me 100% guarantee that if you've got the strategy down, you're not going to get hit. Some of it is still down to luck, I think. But less so than some other arcade games. I do like games that, you know, if you get the strategy down, you can avoid being hit. But then the point of some of this stuff is that it's Twitch skill, isn't it? That is part of the skill. So. You just push it if you're not careful. You have to actually jump and hit it. Actually, I didn't remember being a thing quite so much. Just trip you up. This is the one that I was really stuck on if you watched the review. I was doing this for ages, and this is just the edit where it happened to be. I happened to manage it, but again, you see, I don't think I've figured it out yet. But just hold your finger down, you fool. That's it. Okay, and then he comes down. But how do you get around there now, Baron von Blubber? But just at the top there is the X that I need for the extend. That's lovely. A little bit of a thrilling and exciting, unexpected thing. You got it right. Bukio. Nice one up. I think these guys are some of my favourite dudes now, looking at the weird design of them. I think they are actually some of the most fun. And they look quite scary when they're mad as well. Quite unpredictable. Get the fruit. I think I'm not creating the. I'm not grabbing the fruit at the end of missions because I've kind of forgotten about it at this stage. Things get so difficult that I'm just so relieved to have actually cleared the level. I forget to wander around and get the food. It controls really well. Looks nice. Like this background is a little bit rubbish, isn't it? It just looks like a wallpaper pattern in Photoshop or something. But the sprites are universally just awesome. It's so simple, but can't remember how I do this. How did I do it? I could get up there so easy now. I know exactly how to do it. Does it go that way? There you go. Come on! Oh no! Gotta put a couple of deaths in just to make it so you can see the struggles that I had. This, I'm not sure whether this was, well, I couldn't complete it, so I would say that this was tougher than Wonder Boy has been the toughest so far until I've played this. There are quirks and secrets to learn in this game that I've got to play a lot longer before I will have learned all of those. But if I waited to do the video until I knew everything about the game, the video would never get put up on YouTube, would it? There you go, and then bounce on that one while the fire goes down. Like I know what I'm doing. Whee! 8,000. Yeah, the long play that I was watching on YouTube was very impressive, but some of it was not actually too useful in terms of how to do levels. The one that I showed, or I will show at the end of this, it's a little extract from that long play, and it shows how to do a level that I could not get past. But some of it, it's played by someone who knows the game so well that they don't do the levels in the way most people would do them. They move straight out of the gate so fast and bubble a load of the enemies before they have chance to even move, which most people are not going to be in that position. So assuming they're not, then it doesn't really help you very much, the puzzle of the levels. Some of it does, obviously, but some is not as useful as you would think. As I mentioned before, a lot of the long plays and a lot of the really skilled stuff with arcade games is not necessarily Twitch skill, it's just knowing the game so well that you can manipulate the AI or manipulate the game's quirks. So that was awesome, wasn't it? A massive cake. It's weirdly satisfying. So I did it a little bit there, you know, pop that guy before he could even move. No way you can wait long enough here, you see, they're just, hey, and like stuff like that just comes out of nowhere. So that something will have triggered that bomb appearing, but who knows what it's tracking and stuff. But the fact that everything is tied to unseen numbers and stuff going on behind the scenes gives the game a sense of, I don't know, it's like a sense of everything happens for a reason. It's not completely random. There's method underneath all this madness. So what are the Yeti things called? The Yeti thing. Hydagons in Japan and Incendo in the USA. He doesn't have an EU name. Maybe he wasn't in the EU version, or it's just the same as the US name. Dun, 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 dun. The little guy in the background there, I'm not sure if there's the SOS. Not sure if that's an allusion to another game. So if you go really close and just fire the bubble like that, you can actually pop them point blank. It's very hard, and that guy jumped up both of those guys jumped up into me, but I was firing a bubble at just the right time to bubble them. So there's all those sort of really advanced strategies to learn. A bonus? Really? I would say generally speaking the game's pretty well balanced as well. There's not some of the later levels you'll get to a complete toughie, and then there's one like that you think, well, that was so easy, what's the point of that? But maybe there was a reason. It's called bonus because there's a way to do that that would net you a ton of points, possibly. So seems easy on the surface, but you missed a load of points there, maybe. My plan was to die a little bit more and take, because you retain, if you don't die, you retain all your power-ups. So I thought, oh, I'm going to become too powerful and become too easy. And then things started to get harder, and I thought, well, I'm struggling as it is. If I get rid of these power-ups, it's going to be even harder. But I think if I had actually stuck to my original plan, it might have worked a little bit better. Way! Extended across. Because the enemies would have slowed down if I'd lost some lives. I must try all that stuff. I'm assuming it's correct, but you never know. There they are. They look like Rainbow Islands characters, don't they? The two girlfriends. So that design, the worlds do carry over to an extent. Rainbow Islands was just so well reviewed. Another classic game that I remember from my youth. So level 49 already, but and how many minutes in are we? 30 minutes in. But literally some of this took me 2 to 3 hours. I think this initial set of levels probably took me about 2 hours to do, and then between level, I think it's 55 and 65, which is only 10 levels, took me like 2 hours to get through because I was stuck on certain levels like this one for such a long time, and I just felt like, well, this is ridiculous. If it's this tough at this stage, I'm not going to be able to do this. Bubble him. What is that, salmon? I think that's salmon. This guy's called Drunk, I think. Yeah, Drunk. Willy Whistle in the USA and Boner. Well, I think Willy Whistle and Boner are poor choices in the West, unless someone's got kind of a very weird, slightly warped sexual proclivity. Got Boners and Willies on the mind. You said Willie. You said Boner. This guy, he's made his entrance, and now he's been the star of like 3 levels in a row. So a jump here takes you up to the top level, but if you go too fast, of course, then you just, 7 enemies up there all throwing, what is he throwing at you? A pan? A bat? So not good. You got to wait. Take out some of the lower ones, or take them out quickly all together. Bubble them up quickly. The rapid fire bubbles are helping a lot here. Wallop. Go get that cake. It looks so appetizing. I like cake. Weird that the end boss is not Baron von Blubber, isn't it? It's the guy who pursues you all the way through, but apparently the end boss is Scale Monster. It is the invincible monster that appears after the time limit for a round has expired. It looks similar to a white monster, but can only move vertically. It can pass through walls. The Scale can also be dismissed by touching a player. Another way to get rid of Scale is to pick up the flashing heart. And the last boss is a giant super drunk, or Grumple Grommet in the USA. So, you would think that the guy who kidnapped your girlfriends would be the last boss, but maybe he's not hard. Well, he is hard. He's invincible. So why doesn't he fight you at the end? Because he's a coward. That's why. God, I can't remember this level at all. But as you can see, it's the speed of the enemies at this stage and the fact that they just pop out of the bubbles so fast that makes, on the surface level, it's a simple level, isn't it? But when they're popping out of bubbles so fast, it becomes tough. Would have loved to play it in 2-player. Unfortunately, I don't have anyone on hand to do that. This is nuts. There we go. Point blank. Elite. Absolutely elite abilities there. Oh, this is mental. Watch this. Does it look as mental as... No, you see, because I've edited it. But this is another one I was stuck on for ages. And I don't think there's any, there's no trick to this. You just have to keep reacting. It's just a bit twitchy, this level. And if you can get them as they jump up like that, it's... Oh, that was close. Oh, that's a good choice. But you're just pushing the bubbles a lot of the time. Surely is a design decision, isn't it? Like, you run towards them and come on, I want to pop you, I want to pop you. But the more you're pushing it along, the chance that it's going to burst out and kill you. Yeah, jumping is a real thing you have to be careful of in Bubble Bobble. It accounts for a lot of deaths. Jumping and, yeah, enemies bursting out just as you try and headbutt them accounted for a lot of deaths for me. But with the rapid fire like that, you can create a chain of bubbles. So like bubble him, then create a chain and pop the chain so you don't have to jump directly at him. That's what I started doing a fair amount, just to compensate a little bit for the ridiculously short bubble times. Look at those bubbles going up in the air. I don't know how I managed to do that. And then just kind of drop down on them as they come through. Ah! Scared myself. What does it say? BR10? Don't know if that's a code for something. Another secret of the game that I'm unaware of. There's so many of them. This guy's called Invader, as you might expect. And Super Socket. The Japanese have the better English name for it. It should be called Invader, obviously. Super Socket? What are you talking about? Socket? Well, I suppose it does look a little bit like a plug socket, doesn't it? Yeah, I like doing that. It's very satisfying when you just get your position right to bubble and pop them at the same time, but it just happens so infrequently and very much kind of never... It's really hard to do off the cuff. You got to know where to stand and know where they're going to be jumping. Screw you! So those guys can't go up, they just keep going down. But the other guys, the drunk guys, keep pressure on you on that level because they will jump up to get you. So you've got the invaders coming down through and then through the top of the screen, and you've got the drunk guys coming up to meet you. I must have learnt this before now, but it's obviously one of those levels that you've got to know how to do the bubble jumping in order to get anywhere at all. Grab the diamonds, you fool! Again, I'm just shell-shocked because I got through the mission. Help me! So many of the plots of these arcade games are rescue the girl. You can definitely see the audience, the all young guys, all desperate to get the girl. The fact that it was hoping to get couples playing the game and get more women playing the game did make me think, well, it's a bit of a missed opportunity not to make it a boy and a girl dragon, brother and sister maybe. And you do apparently, if you go through the game again, you go through the game with 2 players and then you get the true ending where you rescue your girlfriends, but then you go through it again and you rescue your parents and there's a true ending. So that would work if you were brother and sister. Looks like a weird Egyptian monument, this. Not sure if it's meant to represent one of the enemies. Is it an invader? Big depiction of one of the invader characters, maybe. I was so lucky here. Just bobbling about. I was thinking a lot about the name, actually. What a genius name it is. Bubble Bobble. It's alliterative. It rhymes. It says something about the thing you'll be doing in the game, bubble, but then also the addition of bobble is pure genius. And I wondered where that came about, you know, whether that, what was the name of the game in Japan? Who coined Bubble Bobble? Actually, I think the more I think about it, the better I think the name of this game is. You could have called it something really straightforward, like Bubble Dragons, Puzzle Bubble, or something like that, but Bubble Bobble. I think it's great. It's genius. So we are very close to the end here. As we get up to these final levels, I have put a couple of deaths here on purpose, so you can see how much I was struggling. This is one way it's just like rapid fire and hope for the best. That's how I did it. Just run at them and pop them all. Is it level 70, the next one, or the one after that? We'll soon see anyway. No, I do this pretty okay. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? That's like a trick to this level. So pop the fire bubbles, kill them like that, and then mop up the rest. It's fairly straightforward. Even an idiot like me can figure that out. Alright, level 71. This was one that I really struggled with. So the guys on either side, those are the ones you need to drop down on. And so close range popping there. You've got to do that. You've got to drop down there and hope for the best. And if anything gets too close, bubble it. Now these guys, you got to drop down on him and bubble him. Like that. Which I simply could not do reliably. Couldn't do it and repeat it often enough. So I just kept doing this until I was able to get through this level. But this level maybe took me about an hour. It felt like an hour anyway. Pop that thing across here. Screwed that up. Now we've got to do some interesting little evasion. So it's just, yeah, and you see all that effort and kind of, I just couldn't make sure that I got those guys, and it might be because they're moving too fast at that stage and I needed to lose some lives to send them back down to like normal speed, but got him that time. There's no guaranteeing. See if you can get this guy as he comes down on you. Yet don't know what determines whether the bubbles pop or not. Seems a little bit random. I'm going to jump over Baron Von Dickweed. We're going to drop down. Oh, I forgot about this. Swine. I put more of my deaths in here just to show you the trouble I was having with it, really. Let's see if we can do it this time. Well, that was a good go in there. Got rid of them all. If we can get over there before Baron Von Turnip gets us. I am holding down jump now, but for some reason they just keep popping here. Okay. So that took me about, let's say, an hour. Just keeping trying, figuring this stuff out. And then I got to this, and it was at this point that I thought, well, how the hell did I do this? And it's the jump and bubble at your feet to get out of this beginning bit. Obviously here. So this is how you do it, top left, where he's firing bubbles and he jumps out like that. That is what I need to be able to do. But as you can see, I am unable to do it, and I did try it for a long time. Like I say, I might go back and figure out if losing some lives and stuff, but I don't know how that would help here. Maybe you can't do it with rapid fire bubbles. But so that was my attempt at Bubble Bobble. I hope you enjoyed watching me. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to complete it, but I enjoyed it, and a new appreciation for Bubble Bobble. So some more videos for you to choose from coming up. Again, thanks for watching. Do pop by the channel, maybe subscribe, and I'll see you later.